So I feel that it's in order that I make a video about Fallout 2 as well as Fallout 1. And it's a little bit different because instead of having to choose which perks are going to be best and trying to work in both Sniper and Slayer, you have no limit effectively on how high you can level. So it changes the way that the game's meta works, where you might have to get to, if you have enough time, like level 99. And accordingly, if you do it right, you can get over 1,000 health, and you'll be able to take on pretty much any enemy in the game with those assets going for you. However, they make the hardest enemies in the game a lot harder, and the potential for like burst fire crits like really get rid of you. So I'd like to go over stuff like how you can level up and how you can get enough XP, getting the max amount of hit points, the good armor, legitimate ways of getting armor that's not as cheap as like going to Navarro or San Francisco immediately, and some stuff like that to give you guys a good sense of how the game's proper play is going to differ from Fallout 1. So first we got the leveling itself. Basically, there are a few good ideas for this. If you get the Bridge Keeper encounter, you can attack the Bridge Keeper and he'll spawn Mad Brahmin that'll try to blow you up outside of combat until you actually get hit by one of them. The best thing to do with this is to hit him and then attack the Brahmin, and you'll pretty much one-shot, one-kill them with like a super sledge or 2 shots. So if you do that, you'll be able to get as much XP as you want. You get like 80 XP for every Brahmin. So it really just comes down to sitting there and grinding tediously to get to a high level. The hard thing about this is how tedious it is, but you can get yourself with enough elbow grease up to like level 24 to get Sniper. Now, there is the concern that you want to choose Life Giver with 2 ranks as soon as you can, because that will maximize the utility of it. Since you're only getting health from there on after every level that's bonus, you want to get it earlier rather than choosing that perk later, because it does more and it's more significant than what your endurance could do. Somebody with 2 ranks of Life Giver and 1 endurance is going to have more health probably than somebody that has 10 endurance. So first we got the leveling itself. Basically, there are a few good ideas for this. If you get the Bridge Keeper encounter, you can attack the Bridge Keeper and he'll spawn Mad Brahmin that'll try to blow you up outside of combat until you actually get hit by one of them. The best thing to do with this is to hit him and then attack the Brahmin, and you'll pretty much one-shot, one-kill them with like a super sledge or 2 shots. So if you do that, you'll be able to get as much XP as you want. You get like 80 XP for every Brahmin. So it really just comes down to sitting there and grinding tediously to get to a high level. The hard thing about this is how tedious it is, but you can get yourself with enough elbow grease up to like level 24 to get Sniper. Now, there is the concern that you want to choose Life Giver with 2 ranks as soon as you can, because that will maximize the utility of it. Since you're only getting health from there on after every level that's bonus, you want to get it earlier rather than choosing that perk later, because it does more and it's more significant than what your endurance could do. Somebody with 2 ranks of Life Giver and 1 endurance is going to have more health probably than somebody that has 10 endurance. The method by which you choose your initial perks or your initial stats is pretty similar to Fallout 1, in that you might have one opportunity to raise a skill throughout the course of the game, whereas in Fallout 1, it depended on random encounters and like certain peculiar characters like the Fortune Teller and Aditum. In this game, there might be an element to where it depends on a surgery, but also instances where you require perks to be devoted in order to get those stat boosts. So those stat boosts, if you need them, you can get them later on. One example of something that can help you level up significantly is taking the Zeta scan and the NCR from the hubologist there. And in doing so, you'll get +2 luck. But you have to save first to make sure you don't get -1 luck instead. So once you do that, if you had 7 luck to start with, you can get 9 luck and then get 1 more from a gain luck perk. Essentially determining how much health or how much of an improvement you get from each stat is the basis on how you're going to choose your stats at the beginning of the game. And as long as you don't wildly imbalance them and you choose a gifted perk, you can pretty much determine a good initial stat so that you have good stats by the end of the game. Now, charisma is more important in this game because there are implants that'll lower your charisma at the benefit of extra resistance in combat, but there's also a perk called magnetic personality that'll allow you to carry another companion despite having inadequate charisma. So just keep in mind, it's not a dumb stat like in Fallout 1. The initial perk choices are fairly similar to Fallout 1, as you have a core set of the most important perks that you want to choose. So such perks would be bonus move for an HTH build, or just to position yourself better and not have to use up your action points. Another perk would be perhaps toughness or awareness, which can be practical. You also want to look out for Slayer and Sniper later down the road. Action Boy, gain agility if you need it. Bonus HTH attacks and bonus ROF. Those are the perks that you might need initially. Then later on, once you've hit level 24 or 27, you have Slayer and Sniper. Rounding out your AP with Action Boy and trying to get your stats up to where they can be optimal. It's kind of a matter of personal preference, but if you do, then there's not much you have to worry about as far as which perks you should choose. One that might seem marginal would be bonus range damage, because then that'll give you significant increases to the Vindicator minigun. So just keep those things in mind. Since you have so many perk opportunities, it's more about determining which perks are the least useless after you get your core perks in order. There's some things you want to do initially. One thing you can do is get a pipe rifle from Klamath as your initial weapon. Then you could go to the den and get from Flick a 44 Magnum or a hunting rifle, depends on what he has in stock, and you can get ammo for each respective item. But you do have to be careful if you're making the money per se from craps in Becky's casino. Then you have to be careful that the children there don't steal the items that you purchased or the money that you gained and give it to Flick. It's like a business model where he can't lose. But those are some good early weapons you can get. So for leather armor, for example, you can get some in modoc from the tanner there. And for metal armor, you can get it at a trader in Vault City's courtyard named Happy Harry. And for combat armor, actually, you can get it once you go to New Reno. If you go into the New Reno Arms and steal an electronic lockpick from the owner in the basement, and then you go back to Klamath, you do the Rescue Smiley quest, and you take Vic with you to repair the elevator. Then you just take some pulse grenades, kill the robot, break in with the electronic lockpick, and you have a Bozar and combat armor Mark II. This game has a few different ways of making money. Some include getting the ability to collect the pelts of geckos, and then you can just fight geckos in encounters and get those. A better way might be to gamble, which is kind of a simple and obvious way to just like cheese your way through getting all the money. And another way, if you have weapons, is to beat Enclave patrols and take their items and bring them back to a town with a merchant. All of these are pretty good ways to make money. And there's also the opportunity to run caravan missions. They do take a lot of time, and they are potentially dangerous. You might want to save before them. But that said, the game has more of a robust notion of economy with like all the traders you have in San Francisco and all the good items they have, like an unlimited supply of power armor. And you want to keep in mind that you can use the highwaymen, which you can get pretty early on in the game if you go take a super toolkit and take it to a guy in Gecko. He'll give you the part you need to give the smithy so you can get the car. But that's a valuable way to increase your storage. And when that thing fills up, you just go to storage lockers in, say, San Francisco and offload all your stuff. You can also use your companions as mules in this fashion. Be on the lookout for Nuka-Cola, which you can get at a bar in Broken Hills. And make sure you purchase all the fruits and stem packs you can find, because if you get Myron as a companion, he can turn your stem packs and those ingredients into super stem packs, which are one of the most important items in the game for combat effectiveness. See, if you run a bunch of encounters or you deal with hard enemies like the She or the Enclave, you want to have a big number of stem packs or super stem packs, because they will wear your health down with attrition. And it might be tedious after every encounter to just like wait 30 days to heal, because over time you will have a large health pool. So your best bet is to just go and try to collect as many super stem packs as you can get from traders, stem packs as well, and have Myron turn those ingredients into super stem packs. You can use super stem packs to assassinate characters, but they're better off being used by yourself, and sometimes when your companions need them. I'd say you're better off just setting a timer on some C4 if you wanted to silently assassinate enemies without pissing off towns. Another thing to keep in mind is that enemies like the Enclave soldiers with their armor will resist plasma very well, and the alien or floaters in the desert have very good electrical resistance, so a pulse rifle or an alien blaster against them is almost useless. You might be best off using an alien blaster that you can get from a trader north of Modoc in a random encounter, because that weapon uses small energy cells, and dollar for dollar using it is more efficient if it's short-ranged than using like a turboplasma rifle's ammunition of microfusion cells. Instead, you might want to use those for your highwaymen, which constantly needs fuel even with the upgrades. There are a couple things I've attempted to do in the game, but I don't think they're possible without the restoration patch. So here's what you do. If you want to get Frank Horrigan's weapons, you can just go attack Enclave Squad Sigma, I think it is, or it's the one ran by Sergeant Granite, and just kill them and have them die in the same hex that Frank Horrigan ends up walking into. And if you get it right, and it should work, then you can switch bodies and loot him, even though he's supposed to be unlootable. So the gun he has is the only burst fire plasma weapon in the game. It's something to consider. Another glitch that I wasn't able to get to work was the infinite biffs glitch, which is supposedly something in Modoc. If you sleep with the Myria or Davin, the guy Grissom, that's the father, will come in and demand like a shotgun marriage. But if you have him dead already, then Biff will come, and supposedly there's infinite numbers of him. Now, the problem is that if he dies Grissom, then you cannot get Biff to show up, because the screen will go black and the game will pretty much crash. So for companions, you might want a set including Cassidy, Sulik, Vic, Myron for his stem pack ability, and either Marcus or Skynet. Now, if you have Skynet or Marcus, they don't have armor they can wear, but Skynet can wield a Gauss rifle, if I recall, and Marcus can wield like pulse rifles and heavy energy weapons, being a mutant. Now, for Cassidy, you'd want to give him a Gauss rifle. For Vic, you'd want to give him an alien blaster. And for Sulik, you would want to give him a super sledge and a 223 pistol. For Myron, presumably you'd want to give an alien blaster. And for Marcus, it really depends on what you have and what you can spare. Either a laser rifle, or a turboplasma rifle, or a pulse rifle. Once they have numerous levels, like maybe they've leveled up a few times and they've increased their health and power armor, you shouldn't really have to worry so much about them getting killed in random encounters. Being strong in the game is one, about having your companions capable of surviving and having them use decent weapons. And it's also about having really good DPS, so you're not bogged down with a frustrating combat sequence where floaters could just like hit you like 10 times in one round, and then you have like 5 or 6 floaters to deal with. They'll win just by aggravating the crap out of you. Now, you've got tough deathclaws, which are also an issue because they do little attacks like the floaters that'll break through your power armor. Not so much damage, but they attack a lot in a single turn. So then if you're dogpiled by like 5 or 6 of them, you can lose your health surprisingly fast. The Shi are surprising because they'll literally have their whole citizenry come and attack you. And it's almost impressive to watch just how much you're getting dogpiled. But it's mostly like the ones that are using high-end weapons like Gauss rifles that you have to watch out for, because you'll be wearing power armor and you'll watch yourself get like 30 damage hits. What else could they be using if not a Gauss rifle? Now, the most dangerous enemies in the game are the Enclave soldiers, and these guys in random encounters you can take on with an alien blaster. In the base, they've got access to sentry bots who will shoot 3 missiles in one turn. They've got their own miniguns, which are quite dangerous and can do like broken burst fire criticals. But even worse than all of them are the turrets that you might find in the base. The turrets you should take out first, because their burst fire criticals, no matter what you're wearing, even the best armor in the game, could like kill you by surprise. If you've got like 237 health, they could do a 300 crit. It's possible. So keep those things in mind. Like even an NCR soldier with their burst fire Pancor jackhammer shotguns will do 50 damage in a turn. In those cases, if you wanted to fight them, you would have to be mindful of like hiding behind walls, because if you're out in the open, they can take so many pot shots at you and just kill you. So you can see that the game allows you to have the opportunity to level up as much as you want, level up potentially to 50, 60, 70, 80, and have a commensurate number of perks and HP that will give you the edge over every single enemy you fight. But unfortunately, you can still have your ass beat by enemies just because of like criticals and stuff like that they use against you. Doesn't matter, even if you come showing up like a munchkin with the best possible armor, they'll get you and they'll knock you down. So in that case, I'm going to list some of the weapons that I think might be competitive by the end game. So you got the throwing knives that if they crit, you can knock somebody unconscious. And that's quite OP. There's also a flare-based build for people who don't choose fast shot that you can get better criticals and a lucky eye roll using 1 AP cost throws to kill somebody by hitting them with a flare in the eyes. Doesn't matter what they are. That's something to consider whether you want to choose fast shot or aimed shots for like a dedicated sniper build. I'm generally in favor of fast shots just for optimization. Now, you've got the super sledge, which is kind of an obvious choice for melee because you can just like swing people across the stage with every attack, and that's pretty powerful if you're dealing with like melee based enemies, because then they use up all their AP trying to get back to you, and you're untouchable if you're by yourself. Depends on how you use it, if you got other people on the map that are your allies, and whether, you know, like you can knock them back and wear them out. So another weapon is the end boss knife that's got similar power, but I wouldn't recommend it because, you know, you can only get it at the end of the game, and it's unreasonably difficult to get. For unarmed, you've got the Mega Power Fist. Now, this does use more ammo as far as, like, small energy cells, and I don't think it's as rational to use as, like, an alien blaster, but if you're interested in a dedicated HDH build, and you don't want the drawback, the mixed blessing that is a super sledge, this could be a good option to go for. So there's some other weapons you can choose, like pistols. You'd want to choose a 223 pistol, like in the first game. It has armor piercing with its base ammo type, and its weapon perk also makes it effective against armor, and overall it's just quite an effective one to use in the mid game. Late game, you could argue it might get overshadowed by the AP armor piercing damage doubling effect that a needler pistol has. And then of course there's the Gauss pistol, which you can't really argue with one of those. A little bit less damage, but the potential for 6 shots in a round. Now, with SMGs, the obvious answer would be the P90C, because objectively it just has better stats than the other weapons, but if you're going to use a SMG, that's really up to you. Now, there's the Pancord Jackhammer. In the same way, it has the best stats among shotguns, and for rifles, it's kind of like a mix-up depending on your roleplay and your play style. You could choose the Gauss rifle, which is always an effective choice. Probably better to give the Cassidy, but you know. You could choose the G11E, which is kind of like an all-rounder assault rifle. You could choose the limited edition BB gun, which would kind of be funny to use. And the FN FAL HPFA. It's a weapon that has a 20-round burst shot. And burst shots are really like the damage per turn meta in this game. Now, if you're going to go big, though, you might as well go big. You've got the big guns, which have the power to do the maximum damage in the game. Bozar, I've had it do like an average of like 300 plus damage per turn. Sometimes you can get 700 on unarmored targets. And it's got that armor piercing effect to some extent. Now, you do have the Avenger minigun with a 40 round burst. And that weapon has a potential on an unarmored enemy to do like 2,500 damage. It's the most broken in the game because of its burst. Then you've got the Vindicator minigun, which might seem weaker, but it does have the ability to benefit enormously from bonus range damage, and it has better armor piercing than the other one, even though it's got a smaller burst. So you could use that and take on Enclave people and do like a single turn on Frank Horrigan. There are the Flamer and the rocket launcher for big guns, but I do feel that everything the Flamer does, a turbo plasma rifle can do better. and the weight of the ammunition is heavy. Now, a rocket launcher can be even worse with how much they sell, like one at a time, and the weight of it. You also have to consider that you have to reload it after every shot fired. But still, those weapons can be fun to use if you desire once in a while. Now, you do have energy weapons, and for energy pistols, the alien blaster is the best to use on most enemies, day or night. But if you're short for ammo, you can get the Solar Scorcher from a unique encounter. And that weapon has infinite ammo and 0 AP cost for a reload, so it's very desirable in that regard. For energy rifles, you got the Gatling laser, which is like kind of like a mid gun, a big gun, but not quite as strong, I've found. And then you've got the turbo plasma and the pulse rifle. On the note of the Solar Scorcher, if you happen to get that encounter by sheer luck or save scumming right outside of Arroyo, like not traveling too far, you can have a really good weapon early game that bypasses the limitations of having to go and get a pipe rifle. In the same sense, the Bridgekeeper encounter, which is the most common you can get, will also, if you like kill the Bridgekeeper by asking him a question with another question, early on you can skip a lot of like that progression just by getting his robes, which are equivalent with combat armor, and those can be fitting for like a tribal based roleplay where you don't want to use high tech, but you still want to have decent stats to keep yourself protected against enemies. It's all really up to you and how you want to like roleplay it, because I do think that skipping sequence can make the game too easy or broken. There are some times where you can necessitate it though, or make it desirable. So I think it boils down to how you want to play the game, how difficult you want it to be, because it can sure be difficult when you have like multiple highwaymen attacking you once when you've only got a spear or like a pistol and you don't have anyone to back you up. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, please subscribe. Have a good day.